Alright, this piece was sent in for repair. It is the, go to the English side, table accent, Wake the Dead. Apparently it was purchased on eBay, and it had some issues. I think if I remember right, it said it didn't have any animation. So we're going to take a look. But this wasn't attached. This little pin was in the box, and we have a broken shovel handle, which I have shovel. This lady's missing her arms. It wasn't in the box that I saw. This dude's got a shovel, and it's intact, so I don't... Oh, this guy's shovel. So apparently when he got knocked out, it broke his shovel off right there. Man, there's just pieces falling out everywhere. But it rattles. Hopefully you can hear that. So let's plug it in real quick. It did come with the adapter. It's 4.5 volt. I already have it plugged in. So let's see what it does. Ooh, that sounds bad. I don't know if you can hear this. Let's see. It's doing a low grinding sound like the motor's under strain. It's called So let's pop this thing open, see how bad it is, and see what we can do for it, and then find out where that pin goes, try and repair this guy, and oh, this is the other end of his handle. Okay, so that's that piece that fell out. Like most Lemax, they have the rubber pad on the bottom. Boy, there's one of her arms. I think this was supposed to have a cover on it. And I think he's supposed to rise and lift the cover based on this here. I could be wrong. This doesn't appear to have had a cover. It says, "Here lies question mark, I wanna sleep," and Bat Boy. Those are the names on the tombstones. I'm assuming maybe the other rattle might be her other arm. I don't know. Seems like every time I move it, more parts fall out. So, all right, let's get this thing open. Start there. I'm going to use a flat-bladed X-Acto to try and get a little bit of an edge here. Because I don't think this is glued on very far. I think the whole bottom is hollow. Yeah, it sure looks like it. Yeah. Normally I use a spudger, but I don't know where I put it. But this has a little bit sharper edge, which is working pretty good actually. Show you where it's at. It has the thick glue right here, so this whole center comes out. Yeah, I think it should just slide right out once I get the bottom completely separated and get the glue broke free. I'm not going to peel the mat off the black base on the bottom unless I have to, which would be if there's a screw. I just want to try and get it off of the actual casting on the outside first. This piece is resin and plastic. And let's see if I can break the glue or if I have to heat it back up. The glue is pretty brittle, so it's separating actually pretty easy. If glue doesn't separate, use a heat gun or a hair dryer, go around it, get it pliable. Just be careful, because once it's hot, it'll stick to you. There's a stronger piece of glue right there. There we go. So, just the glue. The amount of glue they use on these, I wonder how many glue sticks they go through at the factory. Gotta be lots of them. They usually put a full glue stick all the way around these. It's crazy. But, alright. I have the bottom separated. Yep, there's her other arm. Get rid of some of this glue. So apparently this guy stands up as well. Trying to see how to disconnect his mechanism, because he's what's preventing me from pulling the bottom completely off, but he might fit right here. He does. Bam. All right. So this guy is supposed to pivot up, was attached right here. This guy is still attached, and he's got his pin on the top, but his pin on the bottom, the piece is sheared right here, and here's the pin. So that's where that pin came from. So this housing sheared. That's going to pose a small problem. Belt looks okay. I don't know what's supposed to hit the micro switch. It's just glued out in the middle of nowhere. The circuit board. It has a plug with nothing plugged into it. There. There's another circuit board right here, which is the power transfer. You got another micro switch. Okay, the micro switch is for this big plate. This big plate moves back and forth. When it moves back and forth, it lifts these two guys. There's a plate right here. So I see what it does. Let's see if I can get some more of this glue out of the way. Gears look intact. So let's turn her on again and see if I can find what might be causing an issue. Maybe it's just binding up on her broken limbs. No, this motor. This motor is really weak and it sounds horrible. So, I think it's going to need a motor at a minimum. Well, definitely at a minimum. The hard part is going to be trying to repair this, because it's a horseshoe, and it's supposed to be a circle. The top piece is snapped off. And then getting this to back onto this guy right here is also going to be a treat. The only way I can figure to do it would be put it back together once I know it works, when I shut it off when it's in the standing position, and then put a drop of glue on it. Either hot glue or Gorilla super glue, whatever. This guy, he's still all glued together right here, and we're all good. And this pin is still good. Pull the pin out, and then he comes off. And what's down here that's snapped is, if you look right there, you see how these are a circle. That's what this one's supposed to be here, and it's snapped off. So there's nothing here for that pin to ride in for this thing to pivot on for the vampire-ish guy. So I've removed all the screws, unless there's a screw in the bottom. Trying to rotate this carefully so I don't break the tree branches. There might be a screw in the bottom. I'm not seeing or feeling anything. Okay, there is a screw in the bottom. I see where it is. The screw in the bottom is going to be right in this area, straight down. Set that over. And we are going to be I'm trying to salvage the mat. Alright, there's one screw. So on the bottom, right where it says Fabrique en Chine, it's right under the N in the French version of China. And there we go. So there is one screw in the bottom. You can either just make a small hole or peel it back just enough to get to it. The 10-tooth gear looks good. I'm checking the rest of the mechanism. The mechanism appears to be bound up. So I'm going to release the pressure from the gears, and she does not move. I think somebody re-glued this and glued this pivot pin. Or it's just wedged, because the pin comes out, so it's not glued. I'm going to pull the pin out. I'm going to pull a lot of the pivot pins out because it's not pivoting at all. It's glued in place. Okay, I see what happened. Somebody tried to glue this figure back on and the glue ran down, and there's a puddle of it right in here. Let's try that again, maybe you can see it better. So they tried to glue it in, it went down, there's a puddle right here, and it glued this bottom pivot. So this plate can't move, so it's binding up the motor, and that's why the motor doesn't work. So they used too much glue, probably use a dropper versus like a brush, and they've now glued this piece solid to the same equivalent over here. So if I try and remove it, there's a really good chance I'm going to snap that off. So I'm going to see what I can do to help prevent that. But yeah, so it's glued solid, but now that I've removed that arm, you can see this plate moves back and forth like it's supposed to. So, and unfortunately, that's an important thing for this. There we go. That way it hits the micro switch. Let's put this thing back together. So the motor probably burned out because it couldn't move and it was constantly running, and that's why I was doing that low, low hum. So at minimum, it's going to need a motor. And we got to figure out what to do with this seized piece. Because this motor sounds bad. And it doesn't have much torque left in it. I can easily stop it with my finger. It doesn't try and fight. And also goes click, 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 which is indicative of the motor dying. So this one's not dying because it's full of grease like the majority of them. This one's dying because it was under a load, couldn't move, and it just ran the motor with no movement. And that's bad. Also, the screw is stripped. It's just spinning inside the motor's housing. So I'm going to put a little pressure on it and try and unscrew it. There we go. Like so. They have all these wires all tangled up in here. There we go. So these wires are soldered to the back side of this connector, so this could have been connected with the plug versus just soldered directly to the circuit board. Here's a little motor. The motor on the side says SRF 300CA 11440R. That's the model. So it's a 300CA motor, which is pretty standard in these little hobby houses. I use my little gear pulley puller that I finally found after looking for it forever. And I'm going to get this gear to slide up. Or pulley to slide up. let's see where I put my motors. Could have sworn I had a couple here on the edge of my counter. Right here. I'll put an affiliate Amazon link below so you can get these. These are a 6-pack of they call turbine generator motors from Topox or Topoox, Topoox, Topodox, I don't know. But you can see it's pretty much the same motor diameter. The only difference is the shaft is slightly longer, which means you have to set the pulley slightly lower on the shaft so it lines up with the other pulley, and then make sure that what it's sticking through doesn't rub anything above. The only thing sitting above it's this circuit board, which is supposed to be glued. It's come separated from this the base, so I can re-adhere this with glue before I reassemble the unit, just to keep it out of the way. They do not come with the screws, which stinks. So don't lose your screws because they are kind of hard to find, but you can buy screws separately. They usually come in packs of like 10 or 20. They're just hobby motor screws. So there you go, fits right in. Pulley just presses on. If the pulley's broken, you'll have to replace it, but this pulley is not. Alright, I pressed it on and it's a little too low, so I'm going to use my tool. You can use a blade screwdriver. I'll use that just to show you. And you can just pry it up slowly by twisting the screwdriver. So, until you get them to the same height. Like that. You can see how the shaft armature sticks through. So, and pop the pulley back on the belt. And then you can do a visual inspection. Excuse me. To make sure it's level. And then screw her back down. Of course, when you screw it, make sure that that little 10 tooth is lined up. There we go. Before you just hammer the screws down and then break the teeth off your gears. All you gotta do is rotate the pulley until it drops into place, and then you might rotate it a couple of times just to make sure all the gears are turning, to let you know that they're all lined up and there's nothing that's out of alignment. And I have an out of alignment. I can move this plate back and forth without it engaging the other gear because it didn't line up in the shaft. So I didn't check it close enough. So I'm going to quickly realign the one gear that's sideways and then put it back together again. These micro switches are there to reverse the polarity. Is if you just give power to the motor directly, it's just going to keep pushing in one direction, either backwards or forward. And then if that happens, it won't go anywhere. That's good. First, let me get this debris out of here. Next, we'll realign the gears here. So not only was it not in the pin, I had the gears on the wrong direction. I had the outer gear on top of the inner gear. But what happened was these holes right here line up with these shafts, and the one didn't go into its respective slot. And they're all good now. So. And it is now engaging this plate, and it is slowly moving it because there's a lot of gear reduction. So we're good. Make sure it goes back. And it does. So, to do this correctly, it's recommended that you use solder and a heat shrink. And I'll link down below a basic soldering kit as well as the solder station that I use, so you can actually repair this correctly. If you can't, you can always just twist the wires together, fold them over, and use heat shrink to hold them in place. You can even, like some of Lemax does, they just use hot glue. They twist the wires together and they put a hot glue blob on the base of the unit somewhere that it's not interfering, and then they just glue it together. Hot glue is an insulator and it'll keep the wires together, so it works too. Don't normally recommend it, but a lot of animated houses, especially Lemax, they do it that way. It's probably cost cutting since they use a lot of hot glue to begin with. What's a little more? That's like all these wires are hot glued up so they don't interfere with the mechanism, so they're already doing it to begin with. I'm going to use hot glue when I reassemble this, but right now I'm just stripping the wires back so I have some clean copper. Put your heat shrink on first. It's a mistake that even I still make. I have to be conscious that I need to slide the heat shrink down first. If you can, get it as far away from the heat as possible, because it's heat shrink. Alrighty. So, while my soldering iron heats up, I will twist the wires together and get them ready for some solder. So while I'm waiting for my soldering iron to heat up, let's turn it on and make sure it actually moves back and forth and engages the micro switches. Ah, wires came off. I'm like, why is it not working? There we go. That's better. Ooh, that's still not good. This pulley is too close. It's rubbing on the housing. So I'm going to raise it a little and then raise this one to match. It is definitely having a hard time turning these gears. She is getting wedged. Just make sure I didn't tighten these too tight. I don't think that's the problem, but I'm just going to back them off a hair. Maybe I got a defective motor. She seems to be spinning okay by finger. Probably a good thing to test these like I try to do before reassembly. She's working good at the moment. Should engage that micro switch. There we go, reverses polarity. So now it's going the other direction. It's not fast. I don't know if you can tell, it's actually really slow. But it doesn't even have any major resistance on it from these guys yet. You know, I have some other motors around here. I might try another motor in just a second. Okay, micro switch reversed the polarity, and she's going back. I'm going to give it a little bit more resistance weight. Make sure this guy goes up and down before I do any more work to it. Get rid of some of that garbage. It doesn't even lay flat in this coffin. It's interesting. Yeah, this is always the slow part. A lot of times when I pause the video, I sit here and go back and forth testing it. So I'm going to put a little solder on this real fast, just to ensure I still keep a good connection. It's not too hard to desolder it if I have to change the motor, which I might. I have two different styles of this motor. I have a low torque and a high torque. And this is the low torque. I might need to put the high torque motor in here. I just gotta find them. Yeah, this doesn't go all the way down. I'm surprised. I figured this little guy would go almost flat, but it doesn't. hands get grease on it. These things are hard to put in. There we go. There you go. There we go. So that's working better now. And does it have a reset? Apparently not. It'll just stop wherever she's at. So, but I see part of my issue. I'm gonna fix that real quick. I moved the arm out of the way on this one because, well, it's glued, and I didn't realize I moved it underneath the housing. So it's rubbing the top, which is why I couldn't get the motor to work. That arm right there. That's why when I loosened the screws, it gave it enough free play to move back and forth. So this one's pretty basic. The gears that are in here are standard from most of the gear kits, and I'll put one of those below as well. The motor is a 300 CA motor. There's, like I said, two styles, and I'll list them both below. There's a high-speed one and a high-torque one that's a lower speed. If you're having issues with it binding, you might try the higher torque one just to ensure you get movement. It's not very fast to begin with, so you don't need anything special. I think I made it too tight again. Yeah, I'm going to change this motor. Okay, so I'm going to go find my other set of motors, and I'm going to swap this motor out for the stronger one and see if that'll help, because this is ridiculous that when it's put back together she stops completely and she's not spinning smoothly. So either the motor I have in that pack I pulled out is defective, I might try one of those too, or it's or it's a defective motor. So. It doesn't take much to stop this thing from spinning. Same problem with the last motor. Alright, bear with me. I'm going to go find my other motors. And I'm going to swap this out real quick and give it another test. And then I'm going to figure out what we can do about this and this. Because this is glued and that's a bad thing. This I have an idea. But I don't know if it's going to work. The idea is to glue the shaft to the arc itself. There's a chance I'll glue the whole thing. So I'm kind of concerned. I might have to figure something else out on it. I'll think about it while I'm looking for my motors. And we'll come back and let you know what we decide. Alright, so be back hopefully here in a few moments. And then we'll put this all together and see if it functions. He's supposed to slide in there. And that could be a problem too. This pin that goes in the bottom of him is the alignment pin for this. And it keeps this arm. So this arm has got too much motion at the base and it might be binding. Pivot points are very important. So when they start to fall out, you start to have more problems. Alright, let me find a motor and see what we're going to do about fixing these two, and I shall return. Okay, we're back. Got a 3D pen right here. Be hard to see right here. Sitting off, heating up. We're going to try and make a new hump. I have some DuPont, a non-stick dry film lubricant, and a pin on a little backer, and I don't want the 3D print to filament the stick, so put a little dab of it. Yeah. And I'm going to set this right here. Of course, I'll drop it, so we'll do it again. So I got to balance it inside. There we go. And what this is going to do is hopefully when I make a new hump with the pen, it doesn't stick to the metal. So now we're going to try and 3D print a new piece of plastic. And let's get some specs on so I can see it better. Get rid of some of that. It ain't pretty, but it's there. Now it's got to harden so I can sand it to fit and try and repair this pivot. Now this one is glued on, so we're going to have to try and heat this up and crack it free and see if we can get it to actually, work. So, I'll get the machine turned on. This is my first time trying to repair something with a 3D print of some sort. Probably won't be the last, but we'll see. I have minutes of training, so I'm hoping this works. Stuff's pretty hard already, and that pin slides right out. Look at that. Perfect. Oh, look, a bottle trick. I bought this for a different video I'm going to be doing in the near future, but it will work for this too, apparently. So, there we go. I am going to now try and move my chair first, bring this up to the camera so you can get a better look at what I just did before I start sanding it down and cleaning it up. That sucks, a light really can't show. But there we go. I made a new hump. So now I know it's oversized, but that's what the sandpaper's for. And just to make life easy, I got a brand new set of bits, or whatever you want to call them, for the X-Acto. These are from Sizer. I don't think the manufacturer makes a difference. These things are sharp, because just taking them out of the package, I cut myself. Alright. Let's do some trimming. Well, it broke off. It didn't stick. So, let's try it again. Double check how much room I got. Okay. Get the pin back out. That pin is smoking hot. Should have used a different color so I could see it better, but I decided to go with black so it matched. I know that 3D pens, this is PLA material, just in case you're all wondering, is usually used for making stuff, not repairing stuff. So this is a first. I've been told, well, kinda, I've watched a handful of PLA pen videos, and you can also use a little super glue on it to help make it more rigid. Might have to do that. But let's see if the second time worked. I'm going to cut off a little bit of this extra. Apparently that's the problem. As soon as you go to cut it, it just snaps right off again. This might be a little difficult to repair if the PLA isn't going to stick to the mount. Because I was going to use this to also repair a Department 56 piece. I was going to use this 3D pen if I could get it to work on this piece. or a Mr. Christmas piece too. I have a couple that have broken plastic mounts that have to be remade or rebuilt. Alright, third time's a charm. While it's still pliable and hot, I'm just going to try and push it down into the original plastic and try and get my pin out. There we go. I'm hoping I can get this to work. It'd be really nice to have this piece back to the way it's supposed to be. Instead of using the razor knife or the X-Acto, I'm going to try some snips and snip off the excess and see if maybe that works better. Because it's less pressure. We're going to find out. I went a little overboard on some of it. I think it's going to be a little too thick. Yeah, it is. I think I'm going to, before I continue trimming it, just to reinforce it, see if this works. I'm going to put some super glue on the edges and then let it harden and then trim it again. I want to make sure this bonds, but I need to finish getting a little bit more off. I need to be able to have this thing pivot. Okay. Or maybe I'm going about this the wrong way. Maybe instead of letting it adhere all by itself, maybe I should just trim it, since I already have the arc, and then just glue it back on. Guess we can try that too. Let's try that and see if that holds. So this is a first for me. Yeah, I'm taking as much of my skin off as I am the plastic. Alright, see if the super glue will help hold it in place. Key with the super glue is not to get it into the channel where that pin sits. So if you don't have good sight, use a pair of magnifying glasses or something. I need tweezers. Need some activator. Went to the store to get some and they were all out. Alright, now let's see if we can go to the next step without causing any issues to that, and that's to get that to break free. One of these days I need to clean off this workbench. I don't know if the glue's breaking free or if the plastic's stretching. It's starting to move though. I think it was the glue because now it's getting hard again. Nope, it's the plastic. Plastic is completely dissolved in the heat and the glue. That plastic's really badly distorted now. But it's still pliable. Maybe I can get it mostly back into place. And now I'm just taking off the excess glue. Looks like it was a super glue of some sort. So we got the majority of the glue off now. And let's find the character that went there. Oh, he's still in the coffin. I see some right here. So here's the piece that got distorted from the heat and the glue. It goes into that slot right there. That's it. See if we can maybe reform that by getting it hot and squishing it back together with a pair of pliers. Let's check on this, see how the super glue fix is working with the PLA, and see if this will fit where it's supposed to. No, it needs a little more sanding. Almost fits in there. In case you're wondering, I'm using 150 grit sandpaper. So it's not too coarse, not too fine. Hey, it fits. It's a little tight, but it fits, so I'm going to go a little bit more. And the reason I have my other finger on the other side is I'm using it as a support so I don't break the thing I just made. There we go, it fits on there perfectly. Now I'm just going to smooth the top because it arcs back and forth. I want to make sure this top is smooth, so as the character pivots up and down on it, it's not hitting anything rough, because my minutes of training on the PLA pen, I can't do smooth yet. So smooth it out. I got a really bad high spot right here. I'm trying to slowly sand down. I think that's why it's so tight. That's this high spot right here. All right. Now, let's put the pin in. So, here we go. Pins in. Pop the belt on. Got get the power supply. That. I think it's a little too tight still. Motor straining really bad trying to get this thing to drop. I think it's just too tight. So it looks like there's going to be a lot more sanding involved. So we get that pin to push through. Yeah, see this on the other pivot points it moves really easy, but just getting it on here it's still a little rough. So I'm probably going to have to do a little bit more sanding on this. Smooth it down some more, and then might add some of the non-stick dry lubricant on there to help it pivot. That way this guy can go up and down, and then once this works, then I can figure out what we're going to do with the other one. So, instead of watching me for the next umpteen minutes sanding and testing and sanding and testing, basically got the idea what I'm going to be doing, so I shall return here shortly. Okay, we're back with the Wake the Dead. I was going to say Day of the Dead, that's a movie. Wake the Dead piece from Lemax. I did what I could with the old one, and I did make a new piece, and it does kind of work. It sticks a little, but the 3D pen isn't adhering very well to this plastic. I've had to do it a couple times. So I found a broken one that I took the two and made a functional one. So the broken one had a broken micro switch. The little lever that clicks that is broke off, as you can see. So you get an idea what it's supposed to look like. It's supposed to look like that. The bracket or the base that holds the guy is in two pieces. It had a broken gear. It had a bad belt. Picking up what just fell. It had a broken shovel handle. Not a big deal. That's easily fixed. So it had some issues, and I went ahead and took the parts from this one that has the broken base, because somebody superglued it, and put it into this one, which had a good base, just broken pieces attached to it. So I made one good piece out of two pieces. So we turn it on. They now rise, and he rotates. It goes click, and they go back down, and they go click. I'm going to turn off the light so you can see the lighting on it. So Go rising. So, not a bad looking piece. Light's coming back. So, I was able to do all those different little repairs by getting parts out. So I wasn't able to fabric cobble the pieces, and I was getting frustrated with the 3D printer pen, 3D print pen, not adhering very well to the original plastic, which is something that does happen. So, excuse me, the mechanism is pretty basic. It's easily gotten to. I'm going to give you some tips and tricks on if you have this piece and need to open it. Before you pull the bottom off, this piece here, you need to heat up and separate these characters from their mounts. Because if you notice, this guy, he doesn't fit in this slot. And this guy, he doesn't fit in that slot either. So you have to, as you can see, there's nothing on his back. So, and you can see his back is a little rougher because the piece actually took out the material. You need to separate these. Now, how I separated them on this broken piece that I got was I heated up a heat gun and then actually used an X-Acto knife. And as I was heating it, when they were in the up position, I was pushing down until they popped free of the bracket that moves them up and down. So now these came off cleanly with the heat, whereas this one didn't, as you can see here. So, but I was able to wedge it as I'm heating and just push straight down and start cutting through the super glue. Once you remove these two characters, excuse me, you can then take the mat, peel it back like I did here, and remove the glue or pop it out. You can see that the mat's still attached. And then get to the mechanisms. Once you're inside, and if you need to access the transmission or the gearbox and either relubricate it or replace a broken gear, there's 4 screws there, and then 1 screw on the bottom right here that you need to take out. Now, I didn't remove the bottom. I'm going to let these guys lower, and then I'm going to turn it off and flip this one over. Okay. So what I did was I just cut out a square where I thought the screw was, and you can see I'm a little off center of the square, and just unscrewed it that way, so that way the bottom is still fully intact. That way you don't have to shred it. Then you can get in here to replace any of the gears that are bad, relubricate it, clean it, so on and so forth. If your micro switches are bad, they're plastic staked on. Here's the stakes. You're going to have to cut the heads of the stakes off. And when I put, now this one, the plastic stakes were completely gone. They hot glued it in. Somebody had already worked on this at one point. And I just lined up the holes with where the divots were from where the stakes broke off. And I coated it in super glue. I put some inside, let it harden, put some around the edges, let it harden. So that way the micro switch, which tells it to go back forward, engages. And then this micro switch tells it to go back to the rear. So this is up, that is down. Then, after that was fixed, I took the bracket off of here, which is this is half of it here, and took the pins out and put it on this one and took the broken one and just stuck it over here so I wouldn't lose the pieces. Because you can technically glue that back together on his back. You don't have to. You can try and make a new one with a 3D printer. It's just the plate that adheres to him and allows the pivot on the pin, so when it goes up and down, it can move. So, but once you get the base off, and you do whatever you need to do to repair it, replace the micro switches, or switch, singular, replace any of the LEDs inside the base, fix a broken wire, replace a discrete component like a transistor, capacitor, resistor, whether it be on that board or that board, whatever may be needed done. When you put it back together, line up the hole for this guy to pivot on, right there. You can see it's not centered, because if I center this, these rub the inside edge of the hole in the bottom of the two caskets. So line up these, not this. As long as this is enough that this shaft will fit over it and not rub when it spins, that's all we care about. Because these are the important things. These are what's going to break your unit if they're out of alignment, not him. I will tell you one thing. I did not super glue these, and I do not recommend you super glue these. So when you put the two characters back on their plates or their pads, I used hot glue. And the reason I use hot glue is, we all know, Lemax, especially them, has a higher failure rate. And it's because they have more animated pieces compared to other miniature house manufacturers. With the hot glue, it allows you to heat these up easier and separate them, and you're less likely to break the character or the mechanism that they're attached to with hot glue and a heat gun or a blow dryer, so on and so forth. So, and if they fall off, you just put a dab of super glue back, or hot glue back on them, you're good to go. Super glue is more of a permanent thing, and this one had a bad belt. It was really stretched and vulcanized. So anything that has movable parts that can be replaced or should be replaced when they wear down, I try to make it so you can take it back apart and fix it in the future. So the bottom is hot glued on, and what I did is once I centered it, I used the stickiness of the pad to hold it, and I did one piece, squish it together. Next side, squish it together. Then I filled in the sides, so that way it stayed center, so these two characters' lifting mechanisms do not rub the inside edges of the casket. And then once that was good, I then glued him on, and then I glued him on with, like I said, hot glue there. And then this guy just pushes in, because he comes out to be put in the package separate, so you don't break him off. If you have to lubricate it, they use kind of a white lithium grease, and it's really sloppy. The motor is a 300 CA motor. It's not a very fast one. A lot of the motors spin pretty quick. This one's the slower version. At least these two are. They may have the quicker one in other ones, since they like to change them here and there. There's always a Generation 1 and a Generation 2 piece. It always seems to be pretty common with Lemax. Anybody that has the Isle of Doom or Dr. Stretchness Torture Factory knows that on one Isle of Doom you had everything animatronic and a fogger, and the second version just lit up. It didn't have, well, the only thing that worked was the lighthouse. On Dr. Stretch and Pull, what they changed was the gearboxes that run the door and the rotating table, and then they made the guillotine non-functional. So there are two versions, and they like to do that because version 1, if it has a high failure rate, they modify it for version 2 because they still have the molds. So it is possible that this may have a second version. Looks the same, but it might have a different motor, so these guys move faster. Not sure, but if yours is quicker than what mine is, it probably has a second version as an example. Because the motor is the one that came with this, and this guy has its original motor, which is around here somewhere, right here. So, but it's a 300 cm motor. This one still has the original belt, which is sloppy and loose. So this one has a new belt. So, but it works. It did cost this broken house or piece, table accent, whatever you want to call it. That was $20 broken. So I said that's not a bad deal. I can hopefully, as long as this piece was good, I don't care about the rest of it. It's all repairable. Luckily, what was broke on here was good on here, and vice versa. So that completes this one. So I can now send it back to its owner. Hopefully I'll get it before Halloween, since it's only in like 10 days. But this is the table accent Wake the Dead repair. A little bit of a process. Tried to 3D pen. Didn't work like I wanted. Move on. I can still practice with it on other things and see if I can perfect the technique and see if there's a better way to bond it to this plastic material. I might try something different than the PLA. I might try ABS or whatever the other one is. I'm not a 3D print person, so I'm not familiar with all the filaments, and see if something bonds better to this type of plastic. But I have a spare top, which is in still good shape. I have spare figures. I have the gearbox, the motor and the circuit board, so if I come across another one that needs repair, I have pieces to fix it, so it's not a complete waste or loss. Some people look at it that way. I don't, because that's how we keep these things going. So thanks for watching. Until the next time, or the next repair, see you then.